Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
It's fine. I like noises.
What if we just did the whole episode like that?
Hello,
everyone.
Hello, everyone.
We're going to do it sounding like this. Welcome to We Just Watched.
No.
No, yeah, we're not doing that.
My name is David Bell.
I'm Tom Ryman.
And we just watched The Gamers Dorkness Rising. Not a good name.
No.
How am I supposed to finish a module based on an adventure if we never finish the adventure?
Oh, I'm also playing enough.
What? No, you're not.
I don't keep them focused on the story. They're just going to run around looting, killing, and impregnating my entire world.
Folks, it's Thursday. Sorry we're a little late today, but, you know, we don't care what you think.
You can blame me. You can blame me.
Sure.
We had an emergency yesterday that, anyway.
We owe them nothing, Tom. We owe them nothing.
Well, technically we owe them this because somebody specifically paid
technically we owe Ozzy this. Hi, Ozzy. Thank you so much for your support. This is brought to you by Ozzy. This is a patron episode of We Just Watched, where we were told to watch a film, and then we watched it.
We did.
And that film is The Gamers Dorkness Rising. Now, a couple points.
Yeah.
I had never heard of this film.
No.
Neither did you. When I looked it up, I saw that it has a 7.4 on IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
It has 4.5 stars on Amazon, and this is with a lot of reviews, like 3,000 reviews on IMDb, over 300 on Amazon. It's got an 81% with 1,000 user reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and just from the trailer, you can tell, or you wonder why this, right, Tom?
Yes. It's clearly a shoestring budget. It's clearly like a bunch of buddies making a movie about a tabletop gaming group, and then it cuts back and forth between them sitting at the table playing the game, and then like a reenactment of what them as their characters and the actions that their characters are doing.
This movie was apparently supported by a lot of board game companies who allowed them to use their properties. It was a Kickstarted game. I think it's a production company that's made a few of these, the Gamer movies. So the answer is it has a cult following.
Yes, it premiered at Gen Con.
Yes. I would also argue that it's a good case for why we need film critics.
Yes. This is a movie where probably over half of the jokes depend on you knowing the rules to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. It is a very exclusive type of
and
film.
it was fine for me because I do know the rules, but like somebody who didn't play Dungeons and Dragons would never watch this movie. So
correct. That said, the core premise, I think, is a good idea. Which
it's a good idea, yeah. I think it's basically the Guild, isn't it?
I don't know what the Guild
Felicia
is.
Days thing.
Oh, okay. It's a group of friends basically working out personal problems or having personal issues along with playing Dungeons and Dragons. So you have the two storylines. You have like the real world and the fantasy world, and it's very low stakes, which isn't a problem because the fantasy is very high stakes.
Right.
And the concept is a good idea.
Yes, yeah, I very much like the idea of you have the gamers at the table, and then it'll keep cutting to like the the fantasy setting of them as their characters playing through the adventure and stuff, and then like every so often they'll remind you that it's a game. Like somebody will have an idea, it's like, wait, I have no idea, and then you hear dice rolling and he says, wait, I do know.
Yeah, and I do think in order to make it accessible, if this was a mainstream movie, they would have to dumb it down a little bit.
Very much so.
But honestly, I don't think they'd have to dumb it down that much. I think the problem is that it wasn't that funny. I have two major problems with it. My first major problem with it is that it's extremely toxic. Yes. Well, you don't like them.
You don't like
I like
any
a couple of them. I like the lady. She seems fine.
Yeah, she came in and but she's such a trope that it bugged me.
Yeah, well, it bugs me that and this was made in about 2008, and you can tell from the Ninja versus Pirates happening, where I was like, oh yeah, I remember that meme, and I can't blame it for existing a while ago,
right.
But it's not like it didn't get made in like the 70s. Like the idea that they bring a woman into the group and that's like a source of conflict is like, so what?
It's not really in the movies. It's like maybe the only thing I'll say in the movie's defense. But in the movie's defense, it's not the fact that she's a woman that's the conflict. Like I think the other players think it's weird because she's the ex-girlfriend of that guy Cass.
Okay.
So it's like, wait, you're bringing your ex Joanne into this?
Okay,
and he's like, yeah sure. But like right off first of all, Cass is the biggest asshole in the universe, and the movie ends with him.
Is that the DM?
No, Cass is the monk, the guy with the goatee.
Oh, he's the worst. Yeah,
he's fucking awful. He's like the Dane Cook of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
He ends the movie's climax is Joanne saves the day, so she gets to get one wish from a goddess, and she wishes Sir Osric, the paladin NPC, back to life. And Cass literally screams into her face for like 2 minutes
and storms out
saying, "You ruined my game. That's it." Like my game. Like and like in the end of the movie, he comes back like after Lodge, who's the game master, has published this adventure as a module, like an official module, and the rest of the players in the group are all happy for him. Cass shows up and like meekly asks to be part of the group and hugs Lodge, and then just says to Joanna, he's like, "I'm a dick," and she's like, "Yep." And they're like, "All right, well, that's done." Like, he never apologizes to either of them.
Apologizes.
But the person he needed to apologize to was Joanna.
Yeah. And honestly, that could work if he didn't start at an 11 in the beginning.
That was my problem. Like,
yeah,
in the
just a bad person.
Yeah. Also, in that first scene, every single character is screaming at each other. So It's like, and that's the very first scene, and they all come off as the worst sort of aggressively elitist dickhead gamer. Like, it's the type
toxic is a good word for it.
Yeah, it's the type of people you hate playing with.
Right, because they're complaining about that. That was one of the more disturbing things. Is there wasn't that many of them, but I saw a lot of reviews that was just like, "Oh, it's just like me and my friends," and it was like, really,
y'all are screaming at each other.
Because I think the problem is it's just like a game.
Well, and like the kind of the point of D&D is it's a cooperative storytelling adventure. Or experience, rather.
Yeah, and also you play... Like, I liked that they were, like, trying to get this across, which is the idea that you play to the desires of the group, which is hard. Like, you find a bunch of like-minded people, and then you all sort of... Like this movie highlights this just a bad D&D session where nobody's on the same page. Mm-hmm. There's parts where they try to... Like, I liked the bits where they were trying to kick the paladin out so they could do terrible things.
That was legitimately the first time I laughed in this movie. Was when they send the paladin outside. And it's like, oh, there's danger outside, so they can torture the guy. And he starts to come back, and he's like, "What trickery is this?" And then the bard's like, "Oh, there's the evil." And like mid-sentence, the paladin goes like, "What trickery is? I'll slay this foul monster!"
Right.
He turns around, starts running off into the darkness.
I had one legitimate laugh, which is the line, "As if killing the bard impresses us."
Right. The recurring bit with the bard continuously dying really struck me, and also the way he like his character in real life was extremely unlikable, but he was an asshole. But like in the game, his character as the bard was like totally different. Like he was like this joyful like. Every time he popped up and started playing his mandolin, he did it in. Like he had just the goofiest smile on his face when he whipped up his mandolin.
It starts, and again, this is a very inside joke where he was like, "I'm going to be a bard this time," and he's like, "Really? You're usually warriors," and he says something like, "How much different can it be?" And the DM just sort of stares at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the idea is that he gets killed so often that he just has a bunch of bard
he has a
sheets
stack of new character sheets.
Yeah, and so they start metagaming where he's like using his many lives as a power.
Yeah.
And that's all fun, but I think part of this is the fact that these aren't, I don't believe they're actors.
No, nobody gives.
And so
weirdly,
there's no subtlety.
Right, yeah. Everybody's doing the thing where shouting is acting and like giving inflections on weird words. They do much better as their fantasy character counterparts because
I agree.
There are tropes there that they all know and can identify. It's when they're trying to play regular people, they're all just terrible.
I liked Dane Cook when he was a monk.
When he was a monk, he was great, yeah.
Yeah, and he actually seemed kind of funny, but like it felt like offensive to gamers. Their portrayal.
It was offensive to a lot of people. Did you notice how like binary it was?
Oh, it was very binary because
like
I got the idea, but they have the idea one character is playing as a woman. And it didn't have to be a gender related thing. But the idea was he keeps forgetting that's what his character is, which is a D&D trope, is like you don't role play as the actual thing. You're just yourself. And then they do this thing where he like hits on other women. They're like, "You're a woman, remember?"
Right.
And it's like the idea of gay people doesn't exist,
right? In this fantasy universe, gay people don't exist. It was very weird, and they always deliver it as like a "remember, dummy, you're a woman, duh," right. Like as if that like completely. It's so, and this is 2008.
Yeah, it's like, weird. It's
not 1940 when this movie was made.
That's what it felt like. It wasn't like, I mean, obviously there's a level of like homophobia to it, but it wasn't like we're gonna make fun of gay people. It was like, we don't even know gay people exist. That's what it felt like. It felt like it was made in the 50s where they're just denying the existence. Mm-hmm. Because they never, I think there was like one joke, something recognizing the fact that gay people exist.
Well, it's in the very beginning when he tells everybody that his character is a woman. And then he and the bard immediately have sex, and the DM's like, "Well, the game hasn't started yet. You haven't met yet." It's like, all right. Well, at least I know I can. He says something about seducing all those homophobes out there.
Right.
So it's like I thought they were going to go in like a bisexual or a pansexual direction, but like as soon as they're in the game, he is completely limited to only being able to seduce men.
I think the idea was they wanted to make a joke about the character forgetting that they're playing as a certain thing, and they chose him playing as a woman to do that, but it made it really weird.
Well, if they had made other... You could have had it work, except every time, because it was kind of clever that they kept switching between a woman actor and then the actor wearing a wig and a dress. And when he would forget, he'd just be like, "Oh," and then he would like nod, or at one point he literally says "tag in," and she walks in and they just slap hands, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But they could have had a better like. You still could do that and not have every time he forgets be related to him trying to seduce someone.
Yes,
because it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
as much as
I think they were trying to combine tropes because the "I'm gonna have sex with people" is a D&D trope.
And here's the other thing about his character that's problematic is they keep calling her trollop and whore.
Yes, just because she like hits on people.
She doesn't though. She never actually has sex with anyone. The bard has sex with everyone.
Right. He's the fucking trollop.
They're just calling her a trollop because she's a woman and has a bare midriff.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's all right. You're showing your ass there, writer.
Yeah. Well, it's again, I think the reason this has such high reviews, because I get it. I get why we were asked to do this movie because we like board games and we have some knowledge of gamer culture. And I think we talked about this in a podcast a while ago about Christian films, like Catholic religious films. Maybe I was talking to maybe that was a guy like, I don't know. And one of the core issues when you take away what it's about, which is obviously problematic with messages in religious films, but the real reason that industry doesn't work is the reason this doesn't work is that when you're trying to make a movie from a very tight-knit perspective, you forget to make a movie. Like we were talking, me and Adam were talking about this in terms of Twilight because there's a lot of Mormon stuff in it. So like it kind of has that problem where it's trying to be oddly Mormon while trying to do a movie about vampires, and it's like you got to pick one. Yeah. And I think this is the same way as they're trying to make all these nerd jokes and make it like everything's in the framing of we're gamers making a movie, but it was like you needed to step out of that and just make a movie first. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, totally.
And I think we're like a lot of this stuff is like they're clearly in a culture that is whoever these people are. They seem to be in a culture that is somewhat toxic, and they're not looking at it from the outside.
Right.
Like there needed to be more self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was definitely like, oof, you're really telling on yourself.
Yeah, a lot of this movie is the people involved telling on themselves.
Yeah. It's weird because you'd think they'd want to glorify it, how it works, but it really is just like it makes D&D seem like again, I think the idea is they're like we wanted to highlight all the frustrations of being involved in a D&D campaign, and I get that. And that's good for people who are like, yes, hardcore gamers, like, oh yeah, I know those times. But if you're not into D&D and you watch this, you'd be like, man, I never want to play D&D. These people are miserable.
Yeah, I think Harmon Quest does a way better job of what this is.
Well, I think this was one of my first notes is that D&D as a form of entertainment is mainly entertaining if you're A, playing it, or B, watching a group of people you like play it in real time, like improvised. Because
that's what D&D is.
Exactly, and you want it to be spontaneous. You want like Harmon Quest is a good example where it's like it's not pre-scripted. It is to a little bit.
To a degree it is, but yeah,
because it's D&D.
Because it's D&D,
but it's a heavy improv. People make like that. Harmon Quest is very much on the rails, but if you listen to Harmontown and their D&D, it's very much more like regular D&D.
I've heard their Shadowrun shit, which just goes completely off the rails.
It's amazing. Oh, there's having like Curtis Armstrong play fucking Shadowrun. Like the fact that they get like comedians who aren't necessarily that used to it. There's some amazing shit.
Gilbert Gottfried. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, that was Bobcat Goldthwait playing D&D. I mean, come on, it's great. And yeah, I remember there's one campaign they did where they spent I think like 30 minutes just crossing a bridge. Like, it's D&D shit. Like you and then they'll have metagame arguments and you get all that and you get the idea of what makes it fun.
Yeah.
When it's pre-scripted like this, it kind of takes the spark away of why people like D&D, which is that anything can happen.
It's the fact that it's a story that there's a skeleton of the skeletal narrative is there because the DM has to prepare it all. But like when we were doing Tango and Cassia, there's like 8 different people telling the story and everybody is thinking about it in a different way. That's why we'd get this, you guys would come up with this two different sets of elaborate plans to get into a temple, and then Robert would just drop a belt of grenades on the ground.
Right. Because everybody's got a fucking bit to do too. Everybody's got a bit. Especially when it's stuff like that, when it's like recorded. It's everybody's going to ham
leaning
it
into
up.
It there because, like you said, it's a bit, and we know it's supposed to be a comedy show. So
yeah, everybody's going to be a fucking smart ass.
Everybody's going to be a maniac.
Yeah, and like I do like this movie touches on that
a little bit when he just blows up the farmer in the beginning,
right? And it did feel like it was trying to understand. It was trying to show, I think, a very like it's not a debate, but it's a spectrum for D&D, which is that like, are you like, and both I think are fun. Are you playing this as a game? Are you really like, is it like, can you lose? Because, when we played Tango and Cassia, if you killed all of us, the podcast would be over.
Yeah.
So it's bumper bowling, Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's some of that in this where some people are like that's why I did like I don't remember any of their names. The lady who joins
Joanna.
Because she starts like, I liked when there was a point where she's talking to the DM and she's like, you gotta be less, mean to them, or you gotta
rigid,
play
basically
less rigid. And like if the other characters were less of dicks, I liked that idea where she's like new, she's coming in and she's seeing like this guy who's like, no, the rules, we have to do it this way. And then the people are like, we would just want to have fun. And she realizes like these people have to meet each other in the middle.
Yeah.
When one of them cheats and she catches it and then she goes along with it.
Yeah.
Like I liked that because she was showing solidarity to these like weird dick guys that were just wanting to play this way. But the fact that they're like monsters, like that guy who runs his game shop by screaming at his employees.
Yeah, like just grabbing them by the collars. It's like it's so funny because he's such a dick in real life, in the real life segments, but his bard character is totally different.
Right. I think they were being influenced by Clerks, because you think of a character like Randall who will grab, like in Clerks 2, I think he grabs people, doesn't he? Or like, Chasing Amy, I'm thinking of actually with the Tracer bit where he attacks a man. Jason Lee attacks him for calling him a tracer.
Attacks a man?
Is it? Is it? God,
actually, no, it's not.
Affleck.
It's not Casey. He attacks the guy who comes after Casey, and that's Scott Mosier.
I
thought it was Casey for a second.
I'll just chalk line around your dead fucking body. Oh, that movie doesn't hold up, but it has some funny ass parts.
It is embarrassing, but there are some funny lines in it.
But yeah, like a character like that who's aggressive, you tend to need like a level of charisma to them. They need to be funny about it, and you need like a calm friend. And I think they were trying to do that.
And also, Jason Lee is not always yelling in that movie.
Yes,
like he is aggressive, but like he's not always at an 11. He's a dick. He's not always at 11 though.
Yeah, he's extremely homophobic in it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the. Again, it's a fucking 90s film. It doesn't matter. We're not talking about Chasing Amy.
No, we're not.
But like that's why I was thinking Randall, because Randall tends to be seen more as like the point of him is he's a monster, and then he gets this moment of redemption, especially in Clerks 2, where you kind of understand where he's coming from. And when I say a monster, it's more like he talks like a monster.
He's not really a monster. He's just an
asshole.
Yeah, the point of him in the first movie was that he said everything to the customers that you wish you could say.
Yes. And And my point is that there's a way to make a character who is an asshole, and that you can still sort of be on board with
You
them.
still like him, yeah.
But like the problem number one is the game guy, he's the boss. So they put him in a position of power yelling at the people who work for him.
Yes.
So right away, get rid of that. Make him an employee. There's certain things they could do, but it's also the performance issue where they don't have any other. It's just yelling.
Right. They have they're terrible at being real people.
Yes.
They're much better at being their fantasy characters. Like I think with that guy and his bard character, Cass, and his monk character, and then the GM and the paladin. Like I thought the paladin was pretty funny.
Yeah, the paladin was good. Yeah.
But as like a real world, as the real world character Kevin Lodge, he was like terrible.
Right. And that's what I guess is a shame about this movie, is that it has some humor that is like, oh, that's funny. Mm-hmm. And accessible. Like I think the bard thing is accessible. If you haven't played D&D, you understand it. Even if
you hadn't played D&D, like the bit of that he just keeps getting killed because all he does is play a mandolin. You can understand why that's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he stabs himself in the gut when he's trying to stab the book.
Oh yeah, I like
he rolls a 1.
I like the resurrected chicken, because I think they set that up pretty well, which is that they're around a campfire. The bard has 1 hit point left, and he's like, "Can we just go to sleep so I can regenerate?" And they're like, "Not yet, not yet, not yet." And then they cook a chicken, and like one of them resurrects the chicken so it comes alive, and they're horrified by it. And then another thing happens where there's like a bad guy, and the guy with 1 HP is just like, okay, I'm going to go hide. Yeah. And they have this moment where he's hiding, and then the little chicken pops around the corner. And I thought, oh, that's a good setup and payoff.
Yeah, a little chicken kills him.
Yeah, is that they set up this like bullshit character that can kill someone with 1 HP. That's funny. Excuse me. But yeah, I think like you can see the framework of this movie and how it could have worked better.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the general plot of like main characters, the DM who's trying to write his book, he has a romantic subplot and his group of dickhead friends on the side. And if you made the dickhead friends like funny, like charismatic funny, mm-hmm. like that plot, that general framework, it works out, and then they play D&D and they go on an adventure. Like I want to see that film.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
The execution here is lacking.
Yeah. They're all unlikable assholes is a big part of the problem.
They're all pretty goddamn unlikable.
Yeah.
And they do, they have good I liked when they're playing that Ninjas vs. Pirates board game and they present it as showing it. Mm-hmm. Because that sets up very clear rules to the universe, which is every time they play a game, they visualize it.
Yeah.
And that's a cool idea. But it's just, it's shot like public access.
It's extremely low budget. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, whatever.
A score made on a MIDI keyboard. I mean, you can't. It's whatever.
The lighting is non-existent.
The lighting is whatever lights were in the room.
Yeah. And there's some charisma, some jokes where I'm like, oh, that was a good joke. But it feels like I was reading all the stuff about this movie. All the trivia and stuff was like, actually, this part here is a reference to this area and this other movie they did. Like, it's all, again, it's very Kevin Smith, where like everything's a reference to things they already did or that they did in other things. And like, if you're not a fan of whatever this is, then, it's just gibberish. Or it's not even gibberish. It's just, there's a lot of fandom goodwill coming from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I guess Kevin Smith keeps coming up in my mind because I think they were emulating a lot of Kevin Smith, or they were thinking of Kevin Smith when they were doing this. Mm-hmm. And I think Kevin Smith has a similar problem. Which, have you watched the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, Tom?
Nope.
as someone who's seen Kevin Smith movies, I understand it. If you've never watched a Kevin Smith movie, it is literal gibberish. It is as a movie, it is a bad movie. In terms of a movie that like, and I don't even just mean the fact that it's a sequel, you know, because obviously if you watch a sequel having not watched the original, but the way Kevin Smith works is that, you know, even if you watch Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and you haven't watched the other films, you won't understand it either.
Yeah.
Like everything's so tied together and so meta that movie becomes it's meta upon meta upon meta upon meta, where by the time you get to the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, it's like you don't know what the fuck you're watching unless you've seen the movies before it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is like its own insular thing as well.
I mean, I didn't get that feeling from it. Like,
well, yeah, it's definitely more digestible as
the movie does play on its own.
Yeah, but I do get the feeling that like the people who are fans of this don't see the lack of charm in these people because maybe they've done sketches or, you know what I mean? Like, it's a Kickstarter. It's like a insular fan base. So I'm assuming these people are more likable if you know them from what they do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
But from an outside perspective, they're all just wicked dicks.
Yeah. It's like that first scene. Man, I would have turned this movie off if we didn't have to watch it.
100%.
Because it's just them screaming at each other, and they're all dicks, and they're all being assholes, and it's like, this is awful.
Yeah, because for people who haven't watched it, the first scene is they lose. It's showing the end of a campaign where they all die, and like it happens, you know. It's a game.
Yeah,
and they cut to them actually in the real world, and they're all like screaming at each other, like, "Why didn't you do this? Oh, you should have done this. Oh, you didn't heal me enough." And it's just like these people are so mad about it, and like if the point of the movie, the arc was, look how they take it too seriously and then they learn not to.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that was supposed to be the arc. Was that supposed to be the arc?
I think the arc was supposed to be that it's not supposed to be a competitive experience.
Okay. Because there definitely is. They bring in this lady and she does it a different way. And then at the end, they're like, oh, that was weird. That was different, but I liked it, you know? But I didn't understand how
what
it was
entirely
that much
was different. Yeah.
Because they still screamed and yelled at each other. And they didn't change. They changed sort of like they make, like they do the thing where the guy's insisting he's chaotic neutral and they're like, no, you're evil, which reminded me a lot of, I don't know, myself.
Oh yeah.
Playing these games.
A lot of our D&D sessions.
Yeah. And then at the end, they just force him to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, that shouldn't be the arc, because then they just force him to be good, and it's like, well, he's not going to be good because you made the character good. If anything, the arc should be them finding a way to all, I don't know, work together using their quirks and what they want to be.
I think that was maybe the intent.
Yeah, but they just change him. They're like, you're good now. And it's like that. Okay. I think he's still going to be doing like killing NPCs. Like that doesn't change that. It feels like it's like, this is one of the things rewatching Community I noticed is that, and they do actually recognize it in Community. They have episodes where they're like, why are we even friends? We just fight all the time.
Yeah.
And this felt like that, where I was like, I don't know why these people hang out. Like they don't seem to be having a good time.
No, it's particularly in the first scene. Like it's less contentious for the rest of the movie, but yeah, that first scene is a real hurdle to get over.
Yeah. Yeah, there's once you, I don't know. Here's my secret, Tom. This is what I do.
Yeah.
When I know I'm going to watch a movie like this, for We Just Watched, I wake up and I don't have any coffee or caffeine. I don't know if this will work on you. I don't know what your caffeine intake is. Mm-hmm. And then I watch the movie in like a relaxed, kind of dreamy state.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of being a kid watching like Saturday morning cartoons where it's like, what is it even fucking, or like being hungover watching The Negotiator on TNT where you're like, I need something to pacify me.
Right. I'm just absorbing this.
Yes. And it helps because if you're caffeinated, you're just like, I have things to do that isn't watching this movie. Like maybe injure yourself first, like hit yourself on the head. So you need to recover. But for that reason, I was generally not entertained, but content watching this.
Yeah, it became fine after a while, but the first 15 minutes were a real struggle for me.
Yes. No, same here. With the first 15 minutes, I was like, oh, fuck. And then I did the same thing as you. It was very funny. You texted me and you're like, this is almost 2 hours long, which is a funny thing to say about a movie because, of course, it's almost 2 hours long. It's a movie. Mm-hmm. But when you watch the first 15 minutes, you have that realization where like, and this is a movie length? Like, oh, no, this should be a sketch at best,
Yeah.
And then you sort of settle into it. I think it definitely got better when they're playing the D&D.
Yeah.
But it still made me laugh once.
Yeah, I had a few genuine laughs, but
yeah, no, they definitely have comedy instincts.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's the same with fucking any movie that's made in like an insular group. It's why we don't have movie industries where studios make movies that are specific to like political ideals like that. It's you have to be open to make an entertaining movie. Mm-hmm. You can't try to like cram it through one worldview because then it becomes, I don't know, weird.
Yeah.
And I think that was the problem here is I'd like these comedic instincts are there, but I don't know. I think they got too bogged down with like inside jokes and
and making it be just for the community. And that's, I get that. This movie was, I'm sure, made to be like, as a love letter to the tabletop gaming community and whatnot.
Right.
But it says a lot of terrible things about the community. I was
going to say, I think it's more like hate mail to the tabletop because having met people in this community, I don't think it's like this. I think most people, there are exceptions, but I think the idea is like what I thought did a really good job at this was role models with the LARPing, mm-hmm. where they take it very seriously until they don't. You saw role models, right?
Yeah.
Tom?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Where they sort of like the part where they're like fighting and two of the adults is like, this is really fun, right? And the other one's like, oh yeah, it's great. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to do it next year. Where it's like, that is the point, is like you take it seriously in the game, but it's still a game and it's just fun.
I fucking love it when Paul Rudd gets killed by that centaur.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, fuck. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You got me.
Right.
You look amazing, by the way. And the guy's like, yeah, thank you.
Right. And that's how, that's how I think that's how I think most role players are like, is they know it's kind of silly, but it's fun. And like, there's a weird, like Hollywood version where they're like serious nerds. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why would you ever be serious and play Dungeons and Dragons? Like, you can take it seriously, but like, it's for fun.
Yeah, it's supposed to be fun. Yeah.
You're doing fun.
Yeah.
You're doing fun stuff. And like, I think they made this world where like these gamers are like way too serious at times about the outcome of the game and winning and like getting, like that guy who's a major dick. It's just like, good God, man. Like, why are you so mad about this?
Yeah.
So I don't think if it was made, like, again, it's got good reviews, but I don't think it portrays the community very well.
No, it doesn't at all. It's toxic as shit.
Yeah, this like shitty game store owner yelling at his
employees, a guy getting pissed off and screaming into his ex-girlfriend's face for 2 minutes for a choice she made in a game.
In a game that didn't matter at the time, because it's not like that's the other thing. It's not a choice where it's like, oh, you're going to get us killed or you're going to lose the game. It's a character choice that she gets. She gets to make any wish she wants. And yeah, she uses it to resurrect an NPC. And he's mad at the principle of that. And it doesn't affect him at all. And it's like, you're the worst kind of person.
Yeah, you're the shittiest guy. And then it's like, you ruined my game. And it's like, there's 4 other people playing here, dude. Like,
right. No one would act like that. Like, no one would act.
Somebody might act like that.
Yeah. It seems
there's some dudes out there that take games very seriously.
Yeah, I guess. And I guess that's the idea. But then they did not give him the redemption.
No, he does not apologize.
No, he doesn't. And they do it as like, I'm a dick. And it's like, oh, and life goes on. You're always going to be a dick. And
right. It's like you're just acknowledging that you're a dick is not the problem. Because I think we all agree you're a dick.
Right. And that's, I think, the insular part of it where they're like, yeah, and some of us are dicks, you know? We take the game too seriously. But yeah, that's the game. And it's like, no. Like, I don't know if that's acceptable. Like, that's if someone's such a dick that they're ruining everybody else's game, then no, it's not. Don't invite them back into your D&D group, you know? Tell them, like, you need to, like, that guy needed to prove to the group why he wouldn't do that again.
Yeah.
Like, I think if they had shown him something like that, you know? If they had shown him do something to show, like, okay, I know, I understand now what I did wrong. I'm going to take measures to not do it again. But no, they just are like, yeah, he's a dick. What are you going to do? Let's let him back into the group. And it's like, but he makes it not fun.
Yeah, and he's abusive. Like, he's mean to the other players.
Yeah. It's like, no.
Like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Like,
it's no good. It's rubbish. He's rubbish.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's trash. He's pure trash.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think, framework is here. I think some of the jokes are there. But I think the characters, man.
Yeah, when they're not in the fantasy part, they're just all intolerable.
Yeah. Yeah, they really are. It's, I liked the lady, and I liked the dude who was the DM, all right. But even he was like too intense.
Right, he was a pretty big dick in a few of the scenes. Yeah,
and if that was the point, then that would have been fine. But it didn't feel like they knew.
No, I don't think that was the point.
No, I don't know. It's in terms of recommending this to people. Yeah, I don't know if you're really into D&D. You could maybe get a kick out of it. Maybe, I don't know. How would Tom? How would you compare this to the Dungeons and Dragons movie with Jeremy Irons?
I would sooner recommend that one.
Okay, I'd say they're neck and neck for me.
In terms of quality, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a movie that I always...
in defense of the Jeremy Irons Dungeons and Dragons, I laughed way more at that movie.
Yes, that's a good point. Although I will say it's surprisingly not as entertaining as I always remember it to be.
No, it's actually quite boring.
Yeah, it's shockingly boring. So, but yeah, like D&D fans, I don't know if you know these people's work, and you know if there's something we're missing. Then I don't know. I guess you already like it. But from an outside perspective of this group, of this production company or these people, I don't know, man. I don't think I'd recommend this to anybody, even like gamers. It just, it felt insulting to gamers.
Yeah, I think a few people would be insulted by this movie.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's weird because it's like a series of inside jokes, but then there's also humor and perspective that feels like it was written by someone who doesn't know how, like D&D people or gamers. You're right that there are some dicks, but I think generally people are happy when they role play.
I hope so.
Yeah, because why else are you doing it?
Yeah. What? Yeah. It's a goddamn game. Like, Jesus.
Right. It's a game. Yeah. That's all my thoughts on this.
Yep. I don't have anything else to say about this.
Yeah. I want to thank Ozzy. Ozzy,
Sure.
you can, if you liked this, you can explain to us a little more. It didn't hit with either of us. It was interesting to know it existed. It's fascinating to me because of the high reviews it got, but I don't understand. Folks, Tom,
Yes.
can I tell people about our Patreon?
I wish you
Patreon?
would.
Okay. It's patreon.com/gamefully unemployed. We have exclusive podcasts there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. Sometimes people will have us watch movies we just watched. There's a tier, and we will either like it or we won't.
Whole ass tier for that.
Yeah. There's a whole ass tier for that.
Yeah.
And when it's not filled
and then
up,
we'll tell you about it and we'll record it.
And then we'll record it. Yeah.
We also got a store, tpublic.com/store/gamefully-unemployed, where you can get t-shirts, stickers, merchandise, art prints. We got stuff. Check it out if you want to.
Check it out if you want to.
Yeah. And enjoy your day there, buddy.
Today, the day we're recording this, because we did this real last minute. It is like literally when you listen to this, if you're one of those people who are like, oh, the newest Gamefully Unemployed, and you jump on there like a fucking maniac and you instantly listen to it, you monster. We will have recorded this like an hour before. That's how fast our turnaround is, folks. A little peek behind the curtain. This is fresh. You needed to get this out immediately, Tom.
What?